Welcome to another CTO Advisor video, or a continuation of a CTO Advisor video if you've watched my earlier section. I'm Alastair Cooke, and I'm joined for this video by the world-famous Ryan Shrout.
I still won't say world famous, but I appreciate it. It's good to be here. You know, I've done hundreds of episodes of podcasts and interviews, so this feels like home. It's good to be talking with you.
And we're talking about, initially at least, something that has absolutely been your bread and butter for many years, this high-performance accelerated workstation.
Yeah, this is really where, I kind of cut my teeth on enthusiast components and high-performance, PCs. So seeing a Dell Precision workstation like this is always exciting. You got 24-core processors and RTX 5000 GPU with 16 gigs of RAM, and this system has 128 gigs of memory in it. So a great workstation and development house for sure.
But of course, that's no high-end, super powerful server sitting in a data center.
True.
But it's an awesome machine for single use. And what I demonstrated in the previous video was running an entire large language model on this laptop, as well as augmenting that with some documentation that provides domain-specific knowledge. So I could ask very specific, very useful questions of this AI running on this particular machine. I thought that was pretty awesome.
I think there's some really compelling use cases for individuals that want to go create AI models on their own, or augment or fine tune, whatever you want to call it, of AI models for things like that. I know I have significant numbers of written documents over the last 15 years that I love to be able to search or emulate and really kind of process and ask questions of. So that kind of demonstration that you did is going to be applicable to a pretty wide range of audience. Then just goes, you don't have to have massive amounts of servers or GPUs to go run it. You can run it on some pretty reasonable hardware.
Yeah, you don't need the massive scalability of the cloud. But I think there's a lot more use cases with that corpus of data, that bunch of data that we use to do the augmented generation is not going to be just a single person, but it's going to be more of a corporate level or application level. There's going to be use cases where this is not just making Ryan more efficient, it's making his entire team, his entire organization more efficient. And I'm not sure that works just on a laptop. I think we are then probably going to see that running in data centers on real servers.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point that we're trying to make here with this, right? Is that you can do your development, you can do your research, you can find some of those smaller use cases here. But the point is, you can show that this can scale up reasonably, I guess I would say, scale up without having to go massive on things, and apply it to larger user bases. And when you start to think about things of, I think you used a 7 billion parameter version of LLM on this, but if you want to go to one of the larger models, got to have more memory, got to have larger subsystems for some of that.
And that gets to be a much more efficient way of delivering the resources when you share it amongst a group of staff rather than having to buy that resourcing for a single. So I think we will continue to see this, but I think it's important to see that this is something you can put into an actual enterprise data center. You don't have to push this all out to the cloud, particularly if that body of data that you're using for the retrieval augmentation is very private or regulated data. You might have very good reasons for keeping that in your data center and still want to get all of this value.
And I think the value, you start to look at things through a small, medium business perspective, and you look at companies like ours where you might have 10 or 20 employees, but that data set's pretty large. Maybe we're working on some private NDA type material and things like that we don't want out into the public cloud. And so we can keep that information local, still run these types of queries and get the value of a large language model or any kind of a AI model like that, and utilize it in our workflow.
And you can see use cases like medical information that's got to remain on premises at the clinic that is dealing with the patient, yet being able to perform natural language queries against the contents of maybe a single patient's medical history, or the whole genetic connection to them. That could be incredibly valuable.
It could. And I think, your demo that you walk through shows that even if you're a small company and you're working with in-house resources, you could probably develop an application like this relatively easily, right? Or you could go to, an independent software company that's going to develop these types of things and allow you to do that RAG kind of retrieval AI work on its own as well. So yeah, I think applicable to a broad range of industry verticals that are going to use these language models to kind of improve their workflows and throughput a bunch of employees.
I think over time we'll see more efficient resource usage, but what normally happens is as the software gets more efficient at using the hardware and the hardware improves a little, the software then leaps onwards to do more. So we will see more of those 70 billion models that OpenAI are delivering. We will see more of the larger amounts of data required, the very large number of tokens required for that context information, because I want to have a conversation with this AI that remembers what I was talking about yesterday, or at least if I'm a clinician, last time I saw this patient, I was having a conversation with the AI, and I want that history to come through. So there's a whole lot of places where we'll see increasing and decreasing amounts of resource use for this.
Yep. So I think a great demo to show what you can do on a local machine, and it should start to spark people in their minds and ideas about what can you do with modest scale up of this across data centers.
Ryan, thanks very much for joining me on this video. Your insights are always valuable.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to the CTO Advisor. We will have a lot more content from GTC as well as from the awesome things that Dell is doing around AI.